Just after midnight on June 5, 1968, gunshots rang out in a narrow pantry in the Ambassador Hotel. Senator Robert Kennedy and 5 others were wounded. After a difficult struggle, an assailant was apprehended and taken into custody. The Los Angeles Police Department investigation concluded that Sirhan had acted alone in the attack. But autopsy results detailing angles and distance did not easily fit into the lone gunman explanation. The answer to the question of one gunman or two may rest on the bullet count. 2 bullets were recovered from Senator Kennedy. He was hit 4 times, but the other 2 shots just passed through his body or clothing. 5 bullets were recovered from other victims: Paul Schrade, Ira Goldstein, Erwin Stroll, Elizabeth Evans, and William Wiesel. All these trajectories were consistent with Sirhan's shooting position. That brings the bullet count to 7. The LAPD believes that 1 bullet was lost in the ceiling. That makes 8. But in addition to these bullets, some investigators, including the FBI, reported other bullet holes found at the scene, matching Sirhan's line of fire. This photo from the LAPD investigation surfaced 1 month after Sirhan's conviction. It showed a detective looking at bullet holes in the west pantry doors. In fact, several pictures show police looking at bullet holes. But the LAPD claims that there were no bullet holes found in the pantry doors. It was a mistake by an untrained cop who drew a circle around a hole.
The simple fact was that this guy was a motorcycle cop. He had no training in criminalistics, no training in firearms identification. But these holes existed long after he left, and no one knew the source of these holes. So everyone walking past this area said, oh, this is a bullet hole which some police officer has identified.
But as a result of him making this determination, it led people to believe that there were extra bullets found in the walls and door frames in Sirhan's line of fire. The simple fact is, there were not.
As part of their investigation, the LAPD dismantled the door moldings and took them to a lab for a closer inspection. Then, after the verdict against Sirhan in April of 1969, they destroyed them.
What we had was not evidence. Door frames were not evidence. Had no bullet holes in them. There's no point in keeping a bunch of junk around.
There was no reason for the Los Angeles Police Department to destroy this center divider without putting it into evidence and keeping it for evidential purposes.
And it is significant. They not only, destroyed the evidence here, they destroyed the ceiling evidence as well.
Yes, and also photography. They did the photographs, hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds. In fact, well over 2,000 of them that they destroyed.
This destruction of purported evidence has led critics to believe that the LAPD was involved in a conspiracy to hide the truth. Chief Daryl Gates believes that charge is implausible.
You would have to corrupt an entire department, and then you'd have to corrupt the courts, the prosecutor, have to corrupt the FBI and the Secret Service who assisted us in this investigation. How you would do that, I have no idea, and I would think people would want to take a hard look before they make judgments at that question.
In an attempt to resolve the bullet count issue, Unsolved History contacted William Bailey, one of the FBI agents that worked on the case in 1968. We asked him to clarify what he saw in the pantry doors. He inspected the crime scene 1 hour after the shooting.
When I arrived at the pantry, shortly thereafter, and walked around the pantry area prior to interviewing witnesses, what I saw in the center divider between these 2 doors, clearly 2 bullet holes at approximately my chest height. I remember standing right in front of them. I remember having to duck down a little bit to look directly into each hole, clearly seeing a bullet lodged in there, and the wood surrounding it being freshly chipped away.
And Mr. Bailey was not influenced by the markings of an untrained motorcycle cop.
When I saw those bullet holes, they had not been marked in any manner at all by anyone. This was prior to any outside law enforcement agency dealing with any part of the evidence that was at the crime scene.
But Chief Gates declares emphatically that there were no bullet holes in the doorframe.
I can tell you I went out and looked myself personally, and there were no bullet holes in that frame.
Without the door frames to analyze, the question of extra bullets boils down to the testimony of Chief Gates versus the statements of FBI agent William Bailey. Unsolved History's investigation into the RFK assassination has shed new light on that tragic event. Our laser tests revealed that as Kennedy turned away, the bullet trajectories lined up with Sirhan's position. Firearms examinations confirmed the muzzle distance was near contact, 1 inch or less, to create the intense stippling seen on Kennedy's ear. It was problematic, but not impossible to position Kennedy and Sirhan within that distance, though eyewitnesses did not concur. Still, some believe that there were 2 guns in the pantry that night, and that the LAPD discarded the evidence.
Bobby's fatal wound to the head was fired from approximately 1 inch away. That's the security guard's position, not Sirhan's position.
There may never be a definitive version of events that will satisfy everyone.
I'm convinced that only 8 bullets were fired, yes. And again, those conclusions were based on all of the evidence that we had.
When you analyze Caesar's statements, when you analyze the polygraph tests that Caesar took, you come to the conclusion that Sirhan did it and did it alone, and that Gene Caesar is an innocent man.
But one thing is clear. Senator Kennedy, assassinated on his way to the presidency, never had a chance to be elected and share